want to talk about the idea and the concept of scared money don't make money. I don't know who said that, but somebody said that, and I think it's very sage advice. Today, I want to tell you about my scared money philosophy, mindset, and how I'm trying to change that so that I can get Pete and Pedro to $10 million. And if you stick around to the end of the video, I'm going to share with you something I bought. All I can say is, holy shit. Literally. I'm going to show you something I bought that has, it has changed my perception of the universe. Yeah, exactly. It's that important. I forgot my tripod. All right, so here's the deal. Ah, man. I've been thinking about something lately. I have mentioned before that I was really upset that I didn't hit $10 million last year, Pete and Pedro. We did like I think it was like 8.7 or something like that. Actually, I can tell, this is all janky, hang on. $8,511,014 is what we did last year. And at the beginning of last year, I'm like, $10 million, that's what we're doing. We're gonna get there. And we didn't get there. It was a brutal year from an e-commerce perspective. There were a lot of things that happened. The good news is that we are a profitable business, and that is something that I have always been very, very, very focused on. All right, profitability. If you're not profitable, you will not be in business long. And with Pete and Pedro, it's kind of like there are certain companies that basically are started in order to grow. And so what they do is they just basically are spending money. They're not focused on that bottom line as much as somebody like I am with a lifestyle business. A lifestyle business is basically a business that you start with no intention to sell, but the way that you run that business, and I run Pete and Pedro, is very different than a business that is growth minded. And the idea is that we're going to grow it and try to sell it. All right. Tiege Hanley was a different business. It was never started, that company, to basically be something that we were going to run for the next 20, 30 years. You know, we wanted to basically grow it, build it, and exit. But Pete and Pedro, very different. Tiege Hanley is a much bigger company than Pete and Pedro, but Pete and Pedro has always been like my baby. And so everybody that works for Pete and Pedro does very well for themselves. Like, it's a lifestyle business for not only me, but my employees as well. You know, I am not, pinching pennies and making sure that, we aren't ever spending or people aren't getting bonuses or raises or anything like that. And so the whole idea is you got to make sure that you are running a profitable business. And Pete and Pedro has always been a profitable business. Now, over the years, the profit margin has dropped based on marketing, based on advertising, based on cost of goods, based on a lot of different things. But I'm always super focused on the bottom line. Now, when Pete and Pedro first started, it was just me promoting it. I would come on my YouTube channel and be like, hey guys, flash sale, this weekend only, use code like Flash25 and get a deal. Like, that's how I grew my business. And for the first, I would say 5-6 years, that's kind of what happened. People would buy it, they would try it, they would love it, they would keep buying it. And so I was able to build Pete and Pedro into like a $3 million company myself, just by doing promotions on my YouTube channel. But then, as you guys may know or may not know, Mike Levy, he's my marketing director. He used to work for a company called The Grooming Lounge. Grooming Lounge is the OG grooming company, and he was there for like 10 years. He was feeling like he wanted to try something else, and so he and I had struck up a friendship, and so he's like, hey, I think we can basically get Pete and Pedro, to do really, something special. And at first, I'm like, no, I'm not interested, because I am not the most forward-thinking. I am also not the greatest leader. And for me, if I'm being completely honest, I don't come from a big, opportunity, mindset. I'm somebody that, unfortunately, because of maybe my weird relationship with money or the fact that I grew up and I didn't have a lot, and I'm ultra aware of I should say, I'm scared to not or to have an issue. When I filed bankruptcy back in 2006, that was it. It was so emotional for me, just having all this debt for so many years and having these businesses that just weren't successful. I knew from the time I filed bankruptcy, I will never be in a financially bad position again. And so even though Pete and Pedro was doing pretty well, I never really was thinking about it it could be something bigger. And then Mike basically was the one that was like, hey, I think we can do something awesome. And so this is what I think we should do. He came down to Atlanta. I said, no, I'm not ready. And then about a year later, I said, okay, let's do this. Are you ready? And so we did that. And Pete and Pedro was started in 2013. So I've been doing this business now for almost 13 years. It's been a long time. And over the years, like I said, it hasn't been any like meteoric success or rise. It's just been the slow grind over the years. And my advertising spend has basically grown as well in order to basically, keep up with what I wanted to do, which was grow it, but it wasn't ever something where I was like, let's just invest. Okay, we're getting this return. Let's just throw money at it. Let's market and let's just grow this thing and just go crazy, right? And so over the years, I have held the business back because I am not spending. If I wanted to get to $10 million, I could very easily do that. I would spend $2 million. I would get to $10 million. I wouldn't be profitable. And, that would be the thing. You can get to wherever you want to get to, but you have to understand that if you're paying attention to the margins, you're paying attention to the metrics, and you're paying attention to the return, you just can't throw money and expect it to basically produce something that is a favorable result. And when you run a business like a lifestyle business, or you're focusing on that bottom line, it changes the way that you are willing to risk things and try things. But over the, past 2 months, I've really been having to get honest with myself. Like, all right, I want to hit $10 million. I also feel that we can do it and still maintain a very healthy profit margin around like 20%. And so now is the time. You've heard that saying, scared money don't make money. I have been scared, I think, to really kind of like go after it. And just to not like throw caution to the wind, but really like just invest and believe in the process and just go for it. And the truth is, when I look at what we've done and the fact that we have been, and I feel like we've been very smart not up until this point, I feel like we still are being smart about things. It's been very methodical. And we are always looking at the numbers from like every week. We're looking at, the returns on the advertising, whether or not we're spending on Amazon or spending on Google or Facebook. We are always looking at the returns. We are being very honest with ourselves of, okay, I think we should pull money from this. Even though other people are spending, no, I think we need to allocate this to free samples on TikTok. We're looking at the different opportunities and where we feel like we have the opportunities to grow. And I truly feel like now is our time. I feel like we have gotten this to $8.5 million, and I this year want to do 10 million, which means I have to grow 20%. And so I basically threw it out there to the team and to Mike, and I said, all right, let's do this. You've got the budget that you need. Whatever you need, I am willing to do that. But we've got to be smart about it. We've got to pay attention to the margins, and we got to go after it. But I am ready to fucking crush this. I feel like we have done the legwork. I feel like we have built a very solid, strong business, and now it's doubling down on the things that we know are working and we feel we can accelerate. I want to dominate and I want to win. There aren't many men's grooming companies that are doing $8 million. There aren't, all right, that haven't been bought by some big conglomerate. We are a small, scrappy team. I keep my overhead low, but I am ready to invest. And I see this as an opportunity. And I really feel like now is the time. I feel like with AI, with all the stuff that has happened, where people are shopping, what they're doing, the things that we have done well, the things that we have invested in, I feel like now is the time to kind of just to go for it and to say, fuck it, let's make it happen. And so this year has been all about growth and strategically spending more money. And last month in February, we basically every month we have kind of like, okay, this is what we did last year. If we're going to grow, this is what we need to do, and this and that. And basically, I threw it out there as a challenge to the team. I want to do $700,000 in February. We've never done $700,000 in February. And so I basically said, whatever we need to do, let's do it. And we needed to average like 25, and it was a short month as well. So there were only like 28 days. $708,000. It was a short month, but we did it. We hit our goal. It was huge. And so we're going to continue to push the envelope, push the pedal down, because like somebody has said, scared money don't make money. I feel like I was scared, and it's not a good place to be. And if I'm going to win and my business is going to win and succeed and thrive in the future, I need to be willing to take calculated risks. It's not about being wildly like, and like a cockeyed optimist where it's like, oh, we're going to do it. Like, we need to be diligent in terms of just paying attention to the numbers and making sure that we are spending where we need to spend and massaging the budget and changing where we allocate money if we see that there's something that we need to change or it's not returning what we expect. If something isn't returning like a 2 to like a 3 in terms of, return on ad spend, you're losing money. And so that is kind of like our metric. If we're not hitting a 2, it's not working. And a lot of the things that we're spending money on, and when it comes to like Amazon and Google shopping, we're getting a 3, 4, 5, 6 return. And so, okay, then I would be an idiot not to spend more money to basically drive those SKUs and get more sales out of them, even though I know that the return is going to drop a little bit. It's about acquiring customers at a profitable margin and then keeping that customer for the long term. And so that's what I'm trying to do. And it's going to be hard, and I'll let you know at the end of the year how we do, but I'm optimistic and I'm excited to invest in this business because it is a great business and we have done some amazing things. It's been very hard, it's been very challenging, but together as a team and with your support, you have been an integral part to my success. Honestly, and that's one of the things that I just can never thank you enough for supporting me. And if you have or buy Pete and Pedro in the future, I just want to say thank you. Thank you so much for supporting our little scrappy endeavor. I never would have dreamed 13 years ago that we would be where we are. I never really had an idea or a vision of where I wanted it to go. And that's one of the other problems. As an entrepreneur, if you don't have a vision of where you want to get to or where you're going, you're going to basically not get anywhere, if that makes sense. It probably doesn't make sense, but I didn't have a clear direction or a clear vision of where I wanted to get to. And so this year it's $10 million. And if we get here, if we can get 10 million bucks, then we'll see where we can get to next year. But I'm excited and I'm hungry and I'm willing to risk it. I'm a little uncomfortable. I'm a little bit scared, but like they say, scared money don't make money. If you have a business question down below, start it with business question or just a question and I will try to answer it. Whether or not it's about business or life or money or whatever, I will give you my 2 cents for whatever that's worth. All right. First question is from our friend Chef Muppet 13. He says, "Yo, Alpha, I'm a 15-year-old trying to start a men's lip balm brand created by Korean Formula." First off, 15 years old, like entrepreneurship, like yes. All I got to say is yes. Like you are so far ahead of me. That is exciting. And even if this lip balm business doesn't work, it doesn't matter. It's your first step, your first try. Most of the time, the first one doesn't work out. Sometimes it does. And I'm not trying to discourage you. I'm just letting you know that the more shit you throw against the wall, the better off you're going to be. Anyway, he says, "I'm really struggling to find a great product on Alibaba, but that's a question for another time. My question would be, do I have to make YouTube videos to start marketing? I honestly don't want to, but if that's one of the only ways, I'll do it. Thank you." You got to market some way, right? You can't just create a product and then think that you're going to be able to spend your way to success. You've got to build a brand. A brand is everything. Now, the fact that you are 15 years old and you want to start this business, what I would be doing, and if I'm you, I would start the brand and I would start talking about it. Like I would start posting, "Hey guys, my name is," what's your name? Chef Muppet, whatever your name is. Maybe it's Greg. All right. "What's up, guys? My name's Greg, and I'm 15. I want to be an entrepreneur, and I'm going to start this business. And this is what I'm going to do. And I love lip balm. And I want you guys to be along for the journey. Thank you so much." Like, I would start talking about it now. People will follow you. People will love you. People will think that you're amazing and incredible and inspiring, and they will start following you. Just talk about your business or the way that you're going about creating this thing. And then you will also do the things that you need to do, which is have a website, have a link, have them go sign up to be, your test, people or whatever. It's the same thing that we did with Tiege Hanley. And you will be so freaking successful. That's the way that you do it. I know that you don't want to, but I think in the world that we live, founder-led businesses are more successful, and that is an opportunity for you that you don't have to spend a ton of money, basically spending money on like advertising, because the lip balm business is, probably challenging. The margins are great, but the way that you're going to win is by letting people know you, your story, and going with it that way. I would absolutely make content. But congratulations and get after it. Next question is from our friend Joe Mars. He says, what's up, Alpha? What are your thoughts on self-improvement authors? If you like them, can you name your favorite ones and the ones that felt overhyped according to you? So I've talked about this before, but I don't read. It's one of my biggest insecurities, but I don't like reading. I don't like sitting there with a book. And so I used to, whenever I'd get on like a podcast, people would be like, oh, what's your favorite, business book, or what's your favorite book? And I would always say like, Simon Sinek's Start With Why. And it's because I watched the TED Talk and I own the book, but I just don't like to read. And so, I am not the right person to ask for that. I just don't like reading. And then one day I was like, I'm not going to lie about this anymore. I'm just going to own the fact that I don't like to read. I like to listen, I like to watch, but I don't like to read. And so I don't look at that stuff. I also have never actually read a self-improvement book. But I like the idea. I like Simon Sinek. He's amazing, but a lot of his stuff is like leadership and business related. He did a TED Talk or whatever. It's Start With Why. Start there. It's amazing. He also has a bunch of books, and he's incredible, and I have a man crush on him. He's so smart. The next question comes from our friend, but you guys, if you guys have a recommendation for self-improvement, like books or authors, down below, let us know. I'd love to see what you guys say. The next, hold on. Okay, the next business question comes from our friend, Fox Miller 2029. Have you found a successor for your business? YouTube channel, when starting a business, people start one, blah, blah, blah. The next chapter, don't mean to mess up. Okay, so have I found a successor? I have not found a successor. I don't even think about that. I have set up my trust so that if I die, my wife basically takes over. I've had to retool all my operating agreements and everything, and she basically would take over and start, writing checks and doing whatever she needed to do. But I don't think about that other than the fact that I had to set up something in order to make sure that, a trust is something I set up. When it comes to a will and a trust, I would definitely recommend setting up a will. Once you start to be successful and set up assets or have assets, then setting up a trust so that it avoids probate is something that I would highly, highly, highly recommend. But no, I don't have somebody like ready to take over at all. But good question. I'm not saying, and once your business becomes like a bigger thing or a bigger like deal, I think that's something that a lot of people start thinking about. And typically they'll have like, a vice president or somebody like under them that can take over. Everybody at my company, Pete and Pedro, could run the business without me, honestly. And so that's that. The next business, actually the last business question, is from our friend Colin Farrow. What are your biggest business law lessons you've learned, and what advice do you have to mitigate, solve them? So I was sued last year for my website not being ADA compliant. And so it was a huge scam. It's a huge scam that's out there. And so what I would recommend is have somebody, if you're developing a website, have somebody that has and understands ADA compliance. Look at your website. I would also recommend having a wave score basically done on your website so that you see where the holes are and then fix those holes. Unfortunately, a lot of the software that is out there, like Accessibility that I used, I thought protected me. It does not. It needs to be fixed at the code level. Accessibility and some of these other softwares that people actually use and sell actually make you a bigger target from what I have found out. And so I've actually removed Accessibility from my website and I fixed the code. And then once every 6 months, I have it scanned. I've got a developer that fixes the issues that come up because it's very difficult to have 100% bulletproof from an ADA compliance website. But this is a huge scam that's out there. And, you probably don't have anything to worry about until you start to become successful. But once you become successful, that's when these scumbag attorneys are coming after you. And so that was a big lesson that I learned, unfortunately, the hard way. But that's kind of how I learn all my lessons. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Thanks for being here. A bidet. Why has nobody told me about this? I guess people have told me, but let me tell you something. This bad boy was just installed about 3 days ago, and it has changed my worldview on deucing, dropping a deuce. All right, this thing is incredible. It's a Toto. I bought it from Lowe's, and I had somebody come. They installed it on the existing toilet. It's got this remote control. You can adjust how much pressure, how much water. You can have like a fan blow on your booty. This thing has changed my life. I used to be like, oh, wet wipes. You need to use wet wipes, right? This thing, like wet wipes? Like seriously? If you're using them, it's like archaic. This has changed my life. I would highly recommend a bidet if you haven't gotten one, or try one. And then you're gonna be like, oh my God, I need one. Now I'm about to order like 3 more from my house because I don't wanna sit on a toilet seat that's not warm. Like seriously, is this like, I'm not barbaric. Come on. I've got a urinal and now I got a bidet. And this bad boy changed everything.